right of you or to the left of you, at least no, there's only prairie and fields and so on, but there is no buildings at all, except for one. The one building you would see if you were here in 1803 would be up the stairs. There were no stairs then, of course, but as you came down the stairs, you were standing on the site of what was Fort Dearborn. Fort Dearborn had 100 people, and it was a fort built by our new U.S. government to protect our lands to the west. That's all that was here in 1803, maybe a few fur traders, that was it. But in 1825, a wonderful thing happened. The Erie Canal was built, 1825. So that allowed you from the Atlantic Ocean to go through the canal and come into the Great Lakes. Once you were in the Great Lakes, of course, especially Lake Michigan, you would see this little muddy river, Chicago River. Where did it go? Well, by the 1840s, you could go from right here all the way into the Mississippi River, and from there down to the Gulf of Mexico. So this was the time of great canal buildings, the Erie Canal, 1825, or Illinois-Michigan Canal, 1848. It opened up the whole country, and we are so perfectly situated here, right in the middle of the United States of America, that we became one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, because almost in the 19th century we became the center of the lumber trade, the grain trade, the coal trade, everything here. The railroads were here, the meat packing was here. So 100 people in that fort, 1803, 1900, 1,300,000 people. Pretty fast growth. Now what I have just told you, of course, takes up many textbooks. So just take it as a quick overview of our city and how we grew. And I know today, of course, obviously things have changed, and you're here to see our beautiful buildings. The one you have been looking at, all of you, I am sure, is the white building on the left, just across the Michigan Avenue Bridge, and that is the Wrigley Building. William Wrigley of chewing gum fame went to his architect, Graham Anderson, Probst and White, and said, I want to build the first skyscraper on the north side of the river, all right? So that side, your right side, is the north side. And in those days, 1921, most people in Chicago lived on the south side, on your left side. And that is why this building is turned at an angle to the street. So then, when all the citizens of Chicago came north, they had a marvelous view of the Wrigley Building. Now, if you've been to Seville, Spain, that tower may look familiar to you because that was inspired by the Giralda Tower of the cathedral in Seville. It's been copied many times by many people, but we were beautifully inspired, I will say. And the building itself, we would call it Spanish Renaissance. It's sheathed in thousands of tiles of white terracotta. Now at this point there's so much to talk about. So quickly look to your right, the building with the glass facade right at river level, that is our new headquarters for Apple, built by Norman Foster. If you're from England, of course you know Sir Norman Foster. He built the Gherkin in London, and this store was designed by him, but look at the roof. The roof line, doesn't that remind you of a laptop? And on the top of that roof, the apple is printed loud and clear, that picture of the apple. So that will be ready for business in October of this year. And behind that, of course, another one of our very beautiful buildings from the 20s is the Chicago Tribune. Now, in 1924, or a little before that, Colonel McCormick, who owned the Chicago Tribune, said, I want the most beautiful building in the world for the world's most Times, a beautiful newspaper, the world's best newspaper, the world's best newspaper, and he put the commission out to the architects around the world. 258 architects entered the competition to design that building, and Colonel McCormick, he picked Hood and Howells of New York. Now, you look at that building, and this is what the people of Chicago said at the time. Look at all that 13th century architecture on the top. That looks like a cathedral, and indeed it was inspired by the Bonner Tower on the cathedral in Rouen, France. So all that 13th century Gothic architecture, it's very noisy here, it really horrified some people in a way. They said, Colonel McCormick, how could you have your building in the 20th century with 13th century architecture on the top? He said, well, you know how? I did it because I like it. And I guess that's what you can say when you build your very own building. But all those flying buttresses, fleur-de-lis and the like, they're all decoration. None of it is structural. This was a very controversial thing that he did, and we still talk about it today. Every 10 years, every 20 years, an anniversary comes up, and it is still discussed how he put 13th century architecture on his 20th century building, because the rest of the building, all the way down to the base, is what we would call Art Deco. It's that unbroken verticality with those windows, with the dark panels under each of those windows. And we're going to see quite a few Art Deco buildings today. So moving on, of course, right in front of you is the Trump Tower. Much to be said about that. It was designed by Adrian Smith, a homegrown architect, in 2009, and it has been considered by our architectural critics to be a very They have to do this. This is the only vote. The first one in line has to blow the horn. They do it every time. Anyway, it was given great reviews by our architectural critics, and if you wish to buy a condominium in there, you're a little late for the penthouse, because it was sold last year for $17 million. It is huge. I've forgotten how many square feet, but it is huge. So now we're going on to our first of 24 bridges, and I believe I did tell some people from France, look at our bridge houses. This one here is inspired by the Alexander III Bridge crossing the Seine in Paris, but we have very Frenchified bridge houses. As we go along the river, you will see them. So Michigan Avenue Bridge, it's also called the DuSable Bridge. He was our very, very first settler here in Austin. So, people love to wave at boats. I don't know why. They don't wave at you in your car. Unless you're especially beautiful, then they'll wave at you. Okay, so on the left here, we're going to talk about the left to begin with. The first building, the London House Hotel, used to be a British insurance company. All our old buildings have had many lives. Look at this building with its colonnade of Corinthian columns, its classical temple, and its a grand entrance flanked by Corinthian columns. And you might ask, what style is that? We call it Beaux-Arts because it is a French interpretation of Greek and Roman architecture. Those columns, of course, come from Greece, come from Rome, but that is what we call that style. And all along here, while we go, and today is Friday, so it's very busy, is our new Riverwalk. It extends for 1.5 miles, and I believe is 99.9% finished at this point. The building on your left with the tower coming out of the base, the beige colored building, that is called our Jewelers Building. It was built in 1926, especially for jewelers, Now why? Well, you could take your car on an elevator, go into the building, get on an elevator, and take your car all the way up, sitting in your car, to the floor where your office was. And then you got out of your car and you only had to walk a few feet to your office. So it was very, very safe for the journalists. Today it is not like that, but look at the top, the tent pole on the top with the tall windows, that used to be the Stratosphere Lounge, but today that is the presentation room for one of our star architects. His name is Helmut Jahn. And if you came here through United Airlines, you have experienced his architecture. So that's his room on the top, his presentation room. On the way back, we talked about the right side of the building. Going this way, we'll keep our eyes on this side because coming up are two beautiful, post-modern buildings. That means they came after the architecture, the plain glass box of the 1960s and 70s, and the first one that is so richly sheathed in dark gray granite, that is Leo Burnett. And Leo Burnett Advertising. That is one of the world's largest advertising agencies. No, excuse me, there is no waiving the competition. Okay, so quit that. You can wave at elbows. I'm serious. Okay, so we have Leo Burnett building. Look at the top columns, look at the base columns. They're very contemporary interpretations, but this building is very heavily decorated, first with the gray granite, then with the bars that separate the windows, the stainless steel, and then those columns, they're a contemporary interpretation of those Greek and Roman columns. It's called postmodern. Postmodern architects, in this case Roche Dinkeloo, postmodern architects, what they did was borrow from history and reinterpret the historical form, and that's what they did there. Also, the next one, which is the next one, this really, with the reflective glass. Look at the top. There's a pediment on the top, just like you would find or just as you do find on the Parthenon in Greece, and then over the doors and windows at the base, more pediments. And look how the windows have been separated with flattened columns, and they're Doric style. You can wave to that boat, lady. Okay. That's our sister ship. So this is by Ricardo Bofill of Spain. People who come here from Spain immediately look at that building and they say, huh, that must be Ricardo Bofill. So he is very well recognized on the international field. And our river walk. This, I have to point out, is my favorite part. It's called the River Theater. This is where, hopefully, if you're here this weekend, you'll take a walk along here and be able to sit here and watch what's going on the river. But behind that, with the flag on the base, is one of our very beautiful Art Deco buildings from 1930 by Hollywood and Roche. And look what I told you, unbroken verticality. But in this case, there are setbacks. And you see how the wings come out from the main part of the building? That was terrific, because in 1930, there was no fluorescent lighting, there was no air conditioning, and when those wings come out and separate from the main building, you are allowed to get more air and more light. That was by zoning. It was zoning that made us do it, but it works very, very well. So you have two buildings here. You may not know it. The first part is 1927, and that's Graham Anderson, Probst and White. And then the addition, Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. And look, from 1987. So approximately 60 years apart, 60 years later, that that addition was put on the building. But look how it complements the original building, and not with all the lines and the colors and so forth. And then a roof was put on the top to unite both buildings. So very, very contextual, if you will. That's what that addition is. There's lots of new building going on here. It's very, very exciting. And this too is exciting. It's the building with a flag again coming out of the base. That dates from 1989. And that is called 225 West Wacker. And it's by a New York firm. The name of the firm, Kohn Pedersen Fox. Look at the top, two towers, and they are joined by a bridge. And that bridge refers to the bridges across the Chicago River. Now, Kohn Pedersen Fox, who did that building in 1989, had done nothing before 1984 in this city. So the next building was their entree into our city. And people said, why are we taking a New York firm to build such a terrific spot, such an important spot on the river? But this building won the award for Best Building of the Year 1984, and it is a perennial favorite. First of all, it follows the color of the river and the curve in the river. It's called 333 West Wacker. It reflects the buildings across the way and of course all the clouds in the sky. It is 360 feet of dark green glass and silvery trim, and it will always have this view. It will always, there won't be anything built right in front of it, because that is a sad story here. So this was popular building of 1984, and the blue glass building next to it, also by Kohn Pedersen Fox, one of the most important spots in our history. That on that spot in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was nominated to be president in the Wigwam Auditorium. Now, did you see the deer we just passed? Well, it arrived one day. It's about, I think, 10 feet high, and it's just very charming. I was doing a boat tour one day. I said, holy cow, where did that come from? There it was. So now we're going up the north branch of the river, which is a little more industrial. Look at this building straight in front of you with the arch in the front. That is brand new. People are just moving in. It's called River Point by Pickett Chilton. And again, beautiful reflections here. It reflects the clouds, brand new, and all these porthole windows. They've got everything to do with ventilation, because behind that wall, this is where the trains come in from the suburbs and where Amtrak comes in from all around the country. So that's how they hide it, and of course there's a roof garden on the top. A roof garden on the top, not on the top of the building, sorry, on the top of where the vents are. Although we do have a lot of roof gardens on many of our buildings in this city. And we are slowing down, something must, aha. Okay, on your left, let me talk about this, because this was done in 2002 by DeStefano Partners, and all those windows you see are either living rooms or bedrooms. All the hallways are in the back of the building. The elevators are in the back. So everyone there had fantastic views of the city. But last year, look what happened. An empty parking lot. Yes, I've learned a lesson here. This is called Wolf Point, and this building, which is 52 stories high, is a brand new apartment building. So the views are somewhat blocked for the people on the left. The oldest building on the tour was a cold storage warehouse, this pink building, dating from 1898. Today, it's a condominium building, and coming up is everyone's most charming building. Look at this triangular profile. These are 4 river cottages, 4. The first 2 are 6 stories high. The second 2 are 4 stories high. Look at at the triangular shapes on the roof. Look at the porthole windows. So 6 stories, 4 stories, and forget buying one of these townhouses as they are, because the people who moved in 1986 or 89 have not moved out. Well, I shouldn't say that, but one person did due to a death in the family, and I don't know if it was a 4-story or a 6-story, went for $2.5 million. Everyone wants a piece of the river, but it wasn't so. Look on your right. This is the Eastman Club from 1979, Gordon and Lapin, and it didn't have any large windows at all. They were put in much later, and this is one of the very, very high-class workout places in our city. Ladies go there, of course, in their Lululemon. And there's everything there you might want in the form of exercise, food, manicures, and the like. So it turned its back on the river, because today they've made nice river walk and they've done a lot of plantings. But 1979, basically, the river was closing. Nobody wanted to leave the river, be anywhere near the river, and this was an emerging neighborhood. Nobody really lived here, but now look to your left. 2002. Times have changed indeed. Everyone wants a piece of this river. This is Kinsey Park. This is a gated community, and these are townhouses based on the London idea of townhouses. And of course, there's mid-rises, high-rises. Papa George Hayes and others were involved here. So, at a river walk, nothing is done new in the city, in the river, without a river walk. So mad are we for the river that on your right is a very old building dating from 1910 or 12. And this is Wallace Business Forms. What they did here was knock in the windows and the doors, and then add those little black balconies. Those little black balconies you will see all over our city. They're always on old buildings. There's so many hundreds of these balconies around the city. We call it the balconization of Chicago. That's how many there are. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. And we have a parking lot. So that's what Riverbank Lofts today. Very, very popular. You can see we're much more, though, industrial up in this part of the river than the part that we just came from. On your right here is Montgomery Ward Park. Now, Montgomery Ward Park, obviously, is named after a man called Montgomery Ward. He had 3 buildings here. For those of you from out of the country, he was one of the largest retailers and catalog houses in the country, and he's out of business now for 12, 15 years. So this park is named after him. His 3 buildings are still here. We're going to look at them. Sadly, he went out of business, I have to say. But there's a couple of buildings I want to point out. And the first one is the one on your right with the diagonals going all the way to the top. That building, it was designed by Lucien Lagrange of France, and it was done in 2002. Now, it is a very unusual building, and because it is shaped as a parallelogram, which means the interior rooms, many of them are very interesting shapes. They're not like you would find in a square building or another. You might say, what style is that? Well, it was 2002 it was completed. So we don't have an official name for things that were built in that era. We'll just say it's the 21st century face of modernism, something like that. But very terrific place to live. And of course you have great views of the river. Look beyond that on your right, you see an old warehouse. What's attached to the walls and doors? Black balconies. By the way, those are condominiums, and I don't know if all of you know this. A condominium is an apartment or a flat that you can purchase. So I mentioned that from my friends here from England because I didn't know that either. Okay, on the right is a brand, well, 2002, another condominium, again with Papa George Japes, and the columns are colored yellow. We asked the architect, why did you paint the columns yellow? He said, well, this neighborhood needs, on dreary days, that yellow will brighten up the atmosphere around here. So these two, obviously, and of course, are very, very popular. But these columns are not just, we're not pointing them out just because they are a different color, but rather because they relate to the next building coming up on your right. This building is the Montgomery Ward their first administration building from 1930. Look at this. It is pure Art Deco, and those yellow columns refer to these unbroken columns that you see on this building. And what is this today? Of course, condominiums. And they needed to put in a river walk. So instead of one projecting out, they took out the bottom bay of the building. Look at the applied ornamentation. It is all about that Art Deco period of the 20s to the 30s. And the next building is such a contrast because this one is from 1908. So 1930 the first, then 1908. Look at the difference here. First of all, look, it's 800 feet of building hugging the banks of the Chicago River. This was the Montgomery Ward Catalog House, and this is where it said employees filled orders wearing roller skates. Well, if you look at the length of this building, you're not surprised. And there's no verticality expressed here. It's all horizontal. Because who was our most famous architect in 1908? Frank Lloyd Wright, and he was all about horizontality. Even the decoration, the applied decoration, is from that prairie period. So, so that's the 1908 Montgomery Ward building. Today, people like Groupon are big tenants in here. And on your right is Goose Island, called Goose Island. That's the nickname for the early settlers that were said to have kept geese. But beyond that, look, Kendall College. Kendall College is an excellent culinary school and career-focused school. But look at the building it is in, a very old building. That was the headquarters or the warehouse for Sara Lee many years ago. So, every building, all of these old buildings, luckily we don't tear them down anymore, which is really good. They just are repurposed for exciting new events. So I'm going to stand here to see what you see. Oh yes, look quickly up to the building with the white corners. You see a sculpture. She's on the old Montgomery Ward administration building. She's called the Spirit of Progress, and it is said she was pointing the way to the nearest Montgomery Ward store. I know. Now you'll get a great photo of her as we go onto the bridge, but look at the building with the white corners, 1973, when Nori Yamasaki was the architect. That's the third Montgomery Ward building. Never would you get a corner office in that building, because that is where the elevators and escalators. Oh, hi! Hi, Jack! You wonder who that is? I'm gonna tell you. That's my husband's first wife's husband. It is. He's so cute. He teaches at Kendall College. Okay. I was with them last night and I said, I'm coming up through the Chicago Avenue Bridge. And I told him exactly this time. So there he was. Okay. So, that's funny. Here is the Chicago Tribune printing plant, and nothing like the Chicago Tribune building from on the on Michigan Avenue. 1980. Do you think they love the river? I think not. Totally turned their back on the river. But the name of this building is very fun. The name of the building is the Freedom Center, and an employee named that in a competition. The Freedom Center, which of course is named for freedom of the press, because thousands and thousands of copies of the Chicago Tribune, the Wall Street Journal, and so on are churned out here every single hour. So on your left, lovely view. We're going to look at the views as we go back to the main branch. But imagine you were on this boat in 1860, say. Now, this sanitized view here did not exist. Along this muddy river, there were foundries, factories, tannery yards, warehouses, all kinds of business, the bellowing out smoke, and of course, every day, this is hard to believe, 200 boats a day would come into the Chicago River. So you can imagine the air. The air was filthy. The river, of course, was filthy also. And it was a bad time for Chicago, because in the 19th century, the water here, of course, you had a business on the river. You would throw your garbage. Where would you throw it? You have a handy river, you just throw it into the river. And this river came down here. It turned where we just came from, near the, got on the boat. And it went all the way out to Lake Michigan. So this filthy water went out to Lake Michigan, and that is where we always had gotten our drinking water. And there were many diseases, of course, of typhoid, cholera, bad water. And the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois really tried to solve this problem. And it wasn't until 1900 that they fixed it. And this is what they did. Just south of the city, they built a canal. And that canal was deeper than the Chicago River. It was 28 miles long. In 1900, January the 1st, 1900, they had blocked the gates to Lake Michigan. They opened those gates, and by force of gravity, from that deep canal, by force of gravity, instead of all this water flowing into the lake started flowing into the river. And it took all our dirty water down to St. Louis, Missouri. And I know there are people here from Missouri, and you've heard that story. Everybody from Missouri's heard that story, and I know they don't like it. But we've made up now. Did they sue us? Oh, absolutely. Did they try to stop us? Yes. But that a canal was so successful that the men who worked on that canal, many of them went on to build the Panama Canal. So it was one of our two great stories here in Chicago. Now, coming up in front, well, you're all on top of the boat instead of being on the front, as some of our boats have the, never mind. This is our bridges. We have Trunnion Bascule bridges, which are seesaw bridges. Bascule comes from the French word seesaw. Double leaf. This is how it works. Where my elbows are, imagine a massive piece of concrete hidden into the banks of the river. And a little engine is turned on, the size of a Volkswagen engine. And when that happens, because these bridges are so finely balanced, the concrete takes over and opens the bridge and closes it when the switch is turned again. So you never see that piece of concrete, except now you're going to see a piece on a single leaf bridge, which is no longer used. Look to the left. you'll see that that's the size of the concrete that is hidden in the banks of the river. This is our diagonal sculpture. It is a Chicago landmark, and it's an old bridge that used to be used for shipping newsprint to the Chicago Sun-Times. And now you can see that if you turn your head just a little, how large a piece of concrete is that is hidden in each bank. You should be here in May and October. You know, these bridges open by appointment only. In May and October, people are bringing their boats out to the lake, and in October they're taking them out, and it's a wonderful sight to see. So it's really, really fun. So now, if you're going to take a picture at all of this fantastic building, the Nuveen building, now is the time, and it is magnificent. This building on your left, immediately on your left, there will be two more being built, both of them taller than this one. This was a parking lot owned by the Kennedy family, and I will tell you more about that on the way back, because I want you to look now to the round building. There are two of them to your left, by Bertram Goldberg. I bring this up because we're going to look at another building of his. Now, Bertram Goldberg said these words. Are you ready? Nature does not know a right angle, okay? So look at those buildings. He did a lot of his buildings were either round or serpentine shaped. So we're going to see one a little further down the river. And now coming up on your right is our newest and most amazing building. It's called it's William Blair Building. It's by Getch Partners. It's amazing. It's just completed. Remember, the railroad is running along us all the way down the south branch of the river. So it is hidden here. The top part is landscaped. But look how the building comes out. The steel that is used in this building, I think this is the first time steel of this strength has ever been used in the United States. So the building has its very small base, and then it comes out on both sides like this, like as an old style martini glass does. And you know what that looks like, some of you, right? Sure. You will get a great look at this building on the way back, because you'll see both sides, but it only takes up 1/4 or less of the space around it. So William Blair is moving in even as we speak. They're financial consultants. And we're on the South Branch. We're following the railroad, runs along here. Of course, you'll see it very shortly. 1960s on your left, this is General Growth Properties, but it was designed in 1961 by the people who gave you the Wrigley building. You see how they can change? This is going to not be here for very long, because the air above it is worth much more than the building itself. They're going to be, it will be taken down and a skyscraper will be built there. That used to be the home of Morton Salt, where when it rains, it pours. And one of our largest buildings is the one on your left, the Civic Opera Building, built in 1930, again by Graham Anderson, Probst and White, where this windowless space spot is here. That's where opera is performed. And of course, there are towers on either side. You need offices because often opera does not support itself. But look at the building. Comedy, tragedy carved into it. Over the windows, we have musical instruments here. Another musical instrument, trumpets over the tall window. Art Deco, pure Art Deco, that unbroken verticality with the panels beneath every window. And the carving. Chevron carving at the lowest levels. That was 1930. By the way, opera buffs, the first opera performed there was Aida, and it was performed 6 days after the stock market crash. Yes. And here used to be the home of the Civic Chicago Mercantile Exchange Center, 1980, Fushikama, Johnson. Look at the towers, though, with the sawed-off windows, 60 corner offices in every floor. That means it was much easier to get a window, a corner office here than it was in the old Montgomery Ward building, that is for sure. And the Chicago Mercantile Exchange used to do open outcry trading. Do you know what that means? Where they would look at each other and trade futures and currencies and so forth. So you can now see the trains coming in because it isn't covered here. This is Amtrak and Metra from the suburbs. So now what happened here? We have all these buildings over these train tracks. You can imagine if we didn't, we'd have miles and miles of ugly train tracks. So what they did is the trains were coming in, they put these piers or columns between the tracks and then build the buildings on top of them. And we're coming up on a very interesting building. It will be on your right. It's a low black building, and it is called Gateway 3. But it used to be the home of the Mercantile Exchange. Now, the Mercantile Exchange, as I said, did open outcry trading for pork bellies, currencies, futures, and everything by eye contact. Look at the cross bracing on this building. That means they do not need columns in the building. And that meant that when they were trading, they would have direct eye contact when making a trade. They're not there anymore because all this open outcry trading is done by computer today. And now I'm going to talk about a building that nobody ever mentioned at all, ever, until 2 years ago. Under the next bridge is a black, past the next bridge is a black building, and as I say, nobody ever talked about it. It dates from the 1960s, maybe 70s, but look what they did on this building. This was in the newspapers. It's so popular. They put a mural on here. So shade your eyes if you can, look at the top almost, and you'll see a line coming out from the right, going to the left. That is where you got on the boat. And you are now on the south branch of the river. That red square, or that red envelope, that is where you are right this minute. Right this minute, you're up right there. So you might wonder, where are you? Do you ever think that? Where am I? Well, that's where you are. That's exactly. Wasn't that fun? I mean, there was nothing there. It was a black hole. So the biggest building, the building we've talked about the most, truly, the most in this city is the next one. It's our old post office. It dates from 1929, additions 1932. Graham Anderson, Bronson White. Look at this building. Abandoned since 1997. A huge tax loss to the city. Art Deco, of course, that unbroken verticality, setbacks. Absolutely inefficient. That's why we abandoned it. Mail was touched too many times. There's no more parcel post, which most people on this boat don't know what parcel post is. We use FedEx today, and we use UPS. Get rid of that post office. It took until last year for us to come up with a plan. Look, this road that we're going under a road. That road goes through a tunnel in that post office, by the way, to the western suburbs. There it goes. So we finally sold it to a company. They own our Aon building, who has a plan for it. And they're talking now about zoning for hotels, condos, and so forth. So it's been a matter of discussion since 20 years. 20 years now. Yes. We built a new post office. You're going to see it on your right. This is by Lester P. Knight, and this is no human hands touch when it was built. And you will see in just a moment, you will see yellow trusses on the building. And behind that, well, I should wait for you to see it. Here it is. Behind that yellow truss is a system of roadways wherein the postal trucks can come in, drop off mail, pick up mail, and leave, and there are no traffic jams on the street. Of course, their railway is underneath here and delivers mail, but it has been very, very all the way past the next building coming up on your left. It's going to be called River Line. Perkins and Will are doing the master plan. What's going to be here, of course, condominiums and parks and stores and hotels and everything you might want. It's a multi-year plan. I think 20-year, 15-year plan, and it's going to change this whole neighborhood, which has been largely neglected for many, many years. They have just started by taking down trees, and so now we get a view on the way back. Very good. See, I don't have to do this tour all over again. This is great. No right angles in nature, and here we go. Bertram Goldberg, condominium, used to be apartments, building from the mid-1980s, with the condos on the top. Below that commercial space, below that is a marina, and that marina is great because the water churns all the time and you don't have to take your boat out in the winter. Now, Bertram Goldberg said this also: I don't want you to live in the suburbs. You must live in the city to support the theater, the stores, the museums, and everything. So he made it easy for you. Below the condominiums are 2 stories on stores and dry cleaners and even a school for a preschool for children. And he said, I will make it easy for you. This was in the 1980s. He started saying this in the 1960s. And of course, now many, many thousands of people have moved back to the city. So now I'm going to point out the most important thing that happened to our city. And if you look to the right, there's not much to see. But say, just imagine going out 300 yards or something, because out there on the night of October the 8th, 1871, it was a Sunday night, there'd been a 2-month drought. Mrs. O'Leary was there in her barn, and the barn caught on fire. We don't know how. It said her cow kicked over a lantern. That's a legend, of course. And that, the wind picked up. And when that wind picked up, the firemen, because there'd been a drought, were very, very tired from weeks and weeks of putting out fires. They didn't come in time, and that fire was blown north. So as we turn around, imagine on your left side, yeah, it will be your left side, the fire went up on that side of the river. But a little way out, maybe beyond the boats that's in front of us, the river being so dirty, the fire crossed the river. Across the river, it continued north to where we got on the boat today. And from there, it went almost 2 miles further to Fullerton Avenue, where it burned itself out. 300 people lost their lives, and 100,000 people were homeless. Now, the city was building after the fire. Why? Because her barn was north of her house, of course, and the fire came this way. And she did leave Chicago. She was the most hated and despised. You should read the newspaper accounts. Poor Mrs. O'Leary. She so suffered from this that it wasn't until 1997 her great-great-grandmother came to Chicago and petitioned our aldermen to exonerate their great-great-grandmother. Do you love that story? And they did. They exonerated both Mrs. O'Leary and her cow. Who knows the name of her cow? Who? Anybody? Daisy. Hey, very good. So that's the story. Now, what could we do? Our whole city is burned to the ground. Literally, all the commercial area we had to rebuild immediately. We were so lucky. You know, we were the center of the grain, the iron, the lumber business. We had to rebuild. And we did. We were lucky in that we had the best architects, the best developers, the best city planners. And what you see behind me, of course, is generations removed of architecture from that time. And that was the genesis of our reputation as a great architectural city. So let's look at exactly what is in front. Oh, this is great. There were trees here. You could hardly see anything. But don't worry, soon there'll be condominiums. So you're here at a good time. So on your right, the building with the pyramid on top and the statue on the top, that is our Chicago Board of Trade, the largest grain trader in the world, and that is Ceres. She is the Roman goddess of grain. So when you eat your cereal, you know where the word comes from now, don't you? From that lady, her name is Ceres, C-E-R-E-S. And she's, look at that building though, with all its setbacks, it's in stone, it's pure Art Deco from 1930. Again, Halliburton roots. Look to the left, the triangular shape set into, gable set into that highly pitched roof. That's 190 South LaSalle. And that is an office building from 1987, Philip Johnson of New York. I know there are people here from New York. He did the Stony building in New York. And straight in front of you, that dot dash building with those balconies, the hook dot dash, that's 235 West Van Buren. I love the geometric shape on the top. Perkins and Will, a great place to live if you work in the financial area. And of course, dominating our skyline is the Sears, now Willis Tower, the 110 stories high. It was the tallest building in the world, up until a few years ago, and now it is not even in the top 10. Not even in the top 10. It was designed by Skidmore, Owings Merrill, 1974, and it's in that modern style of all the windows being the same and the flat top, steel and glass. But I want you to look at that building because it's 1,450 feet high, which means it's about 445 meters high. In Saudi Arabia today, architect, homegrown architect, Adrian Smith, is designing a building called the Jeddah Tower or the Kingdom Tower. It's going to be twice as tall as the Sears Tower. Twice as tall. Imagine that. The tallest building in the world today is, come on everyone, you know, that's right, the Burj Khalifa. Have you been there? You've been there. Look how lucky he is. My goodness, you're a world traveler, eh? And there's Burj Khalifa in Dubai, of course. And that also is by Adrian Smith. That's a name to know. Like you might know Frank Gehry, Frank Lloyd Wright. Adrian Smith is today's name to know. He did the Trump Tower here. He worked on many, many buildings, but the Burj Dubai made him famous, the Burj Khalifa. So I don't know if you've been to the top. You can see there are glass balconies. Has anyone done that here? A fun thing to do if you don't mind heights. Have you done that? Maybe it's next for you to do, right? Okay. And on your right, look what a contrast to the Sears or Willis Tower is this building from 1990, this peach-colored building. It starts to be octagonal on the base. It gets more complicated as it arises. And all the windows are different, many, many different types of windows, etc., etc. Don't think the Willis Insurance Company owns that building, owns the Sears building. Oh no. It's called the Willis Tower now because the Willis Insurance Company from England bought the name only. So of 110 stories, I think they take up 3. At least they did last year. And I've forgotten who does own the building, but they bought the name. Maybe even Sears still owns it, not sure. And here, straight ahead of you, this white building. Remember the river cottages with the triangular shape and the triangles on the roof? Look at this. This is by the same architect. His name is Harry Weiss. Harry Weiss, he loved triangles. So this building is 2 triangles joined at the hypotenuse with one triangle being 7 stories higher than the other. And you can see it right there. Don't forget that name. Harry Weiss loved triangles, okay? So we're going north on the South Ranch now. And I have to tell you a little bit about these 2 buildings on your left. These are Gateway 1, it used to be Gateway 2, now CDW. But they are both the same, and they are both the same style. The style is more the glass box, or less is more architecture, as it was called. This was all the rage in the 1960s. In the 1960s, the economy was not that great. There was no carving on building. Businessmen wanted a building with no bricks. And this is the style they got. It's called modern, and it swept over the world to every big city. Who brought it to America, though? Who started this style? It started in Germany in the Bauhaus School, which was an avant-garde school of art and architecture. And when the Nazis disbanded the school in 1937, the men and women of the Bauhaus came to America. Walter Gropius, he taught students at Harvard, the architecture school there, and we got the master of steel and glass himself, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. These men churned out generations of students who built in this style. And you may look at it and say, oh my goodness, why? What can we say about this? How can I identify this style? Easy, always. Flat roof, steel and glass, see-through lobby. All the windows are the same, all the way around, always, and no decoration. No decoration. No matter what city you're from, large city, you have this style. Remember, it was economical. I have to end that because now, look on your left, we get a glimpse of Citigroup Center by Helmut Jahn, this cascading waterfall of glass, the Ogilvy Center, it's called, a train station. Look at that. Looks like an old-fashioned cash box. Beautiful, beautiful building, stores, railroad tracks, and offices as well. 1980s. This is when styles were breaking away from that glass box and doing much more decorative work. Post-modern, it's called. And here again, of course, limestone, 1930, Art Deco. This is the home of the old, now defunct newspaper, Chicago Daily News. All the carving on this building is about the Pulitzer Prize or journalism. if you look at the carving, it's rather hard to see. It is Art Deco. The accent is on the vertical. It's limestone, has setbacks, etc. Holabird and root. And we're coming up now on the Boeing building. I know that there are people on this boat from Seattle, so they may remember when Boeing's headquarters were in Seattle. Today they are here. And again, this is what we call postmodern, a breakaway from that glass box. There are many different style windows. This lower part of the building is the IT center, and then parking down below, and then, of course, the tower itself is where the corporate headquarters are. There are 2 river walks here. It was designed by Perkins & Will in the 1980s, and this is Boeing's new home. So we welcome them to Chicago indeed. Now look at the William Blair Building, 150 North Riverside. You can see how it comes out on both sides, like that old-fashioned material to the glass I mentioned. But look at the people who were there. There was an empty parking lot. Yes. I will never buy a view with a parking lot. And I hope none of you do either, because there's a hard lesson to be learned here. But it is a magnificent building, richly decorated on the inside. The floors, the walls, the elevators, all of them, top of the line, beautiful, beautiful building. And now, by the way, if you're an architect or involved in architecture in any way, this building on your right, the brown brick building, is it brick? I can't tell. Yes. Building should interest you. It's 1913. It's the Chicago, comes from the Chicago School of Architecture, which is not a school, but a movement to modernize commercial architecture. Large windows, and very simple piers, upward piers and cross beams with large windows. 1913, today it's an office building. Of course, at one point it was a warehouse. And straight ahead of you is the store. Okay, you see the West Building, which is an apartment building, the tall building by BKL Partners. Immediately to the right will be 2 new skyscrapers coming up. This is just where it says Wolf Point West. That's the name of that building, but this is the name of the area, Wolf Point. So the Kennedy land. How did that happen? Well, look at the huge building straight ahead of you, the Art Deco limestone building. That's our merchandise mart, the largest building in the world until the Pentagon was built in the 1940s. But a huge building. It was designed by Graham Anderson Probst of White, or it was designed for Marshall Field. Unfortunately, he asked for this in 1930. That's when it was completed, and of course that was the start of the Great Depression. He paid $35 million for it. By 1940s early, I believe he sold, 1940s, he sold it to a man called Joseph P. Kennedy. And with that, he sold this whole area. Joseph P. Kennedy bought it for $13 million, so that was quite a bargain. And they held it until around 15 years ago, when they sold it for close to $600 million. Bobby Kennedy's son, Chris, was the manager of this building. I think now he's going into politics. But look at this bill. But when they sold it for $600 million, they kept that parking lot I pointed out to you. And that is what they're developing today. Now look at this building quickly, because we're going by it. It's huge. It's hard to make a huge building like this gorgeous, but I think they did with the gold diamonds and the chevron carvings. And then in front of it, those heads and posts are all great men of the 1900s, 20th century. Of course, Marshall Field's head is up there, Wiley, Woolworth, and so on. And it is, of course, in limestone. Beautiful, beautiful Art Deco. building. If you want to, is that, are they, you want a kayak, you can take lessons here up the river. And I think you have to do that before you're allowed out. On your left, on the top, quickly look at this small building where it says Dirt. Dirt, that's a furniture company, and it means doing it right this time. How about that? That's a building that's also had many lives. And a new building on your left, Chilton 2009, beautiful reflective skyscraper. Remember I said, look at our bridge houses, very, very much influenced by France. Daniel Bourbon plan said our city plan wanted to have Paris on the prairie. So we did it in a small way with these beautiful bridge houses and some of our main boulevards. On your left, 1913, look at the tower. This used to also, Encyclopedia Britannica is here at Whirlpool. Look at the clock though. That clock tells you what time to be at work. Because when that building was constructed, nobody had wristwatches. They were 1913. So today, it's an office building, brickwork, the tuck pointing, very, very beautifully done. And here is what we call the odd couple. The odd couple because two buildings, they don't relate to each other architecturally, but they are united by a three-tier riverwalk. They date from the 1980s, and we said, oh, we need the whole city to have a riverwalk, and slowly that is what we are getting. So we have the American Bar Association and the West End Hotel. But of course, I want to talk about the next buildings, the Marina. Look, House of Blues. I'll mention that in a minute because we're approaching the two towers of the Marina City of 1960s Bertram Goldberg. And these buildings are 60 stories high, 40 stories of apartments or condos today. Below that, 16 stories of parking. And below that, that commercial space was so important to keep you happy in the city. And below that, a marina. Behind that, what's today the House of Blues, was the theater for this building, and behind that is an office building. Don't move to the suburbs. We have lots here that you can live nicely. And this was the start of people moving back to the city. And they did. I got Bertram Goldberg, of course, he was a Chicago architect. He died a few years ago. And when you look at his buildings, it's hard to believe that he and the next architect came out from Germany together, and they studied together, because the next building is by that master of steel and glass. On the left, this is the American Medical Association and the Langham Hotel. Look at this. Perfect piece of modern architecture. Our architectural critic, you know what he said? He said, this is black tie elegance. Perfectly proportioned black tie elegance. So there's a taller one in Toronto called the Toronto Dominion Bank. Mies van der Rohe, the architect, and he came here, he never saw that building finished, unfortunately. He died before it was completed in 1971. And of course, you would like to know those people, wouldn't you? Okay, on your left, the Trump International Hotel and Towers. Trump came here in the 1990s and said there was a very small building here, the Chicago Sun-Times. He said, let's build the tallest building in the world here. But then 9/11 happened and we weren't interested in that anymore. But this is the second tallest building in Chicago. And as I told you, it's a hotel and you can buy condominiums in there. Also, 2 river walks. Actually, look at it. 3 river walks. Very, very high marks from the architectural critics. Okay, coming up again, do look again at our wonderful Chicago Tribune building. You know, all that Gothic architecture on the top follows on the bottom. So when you walk north of Michigan Avenue, you can look at it more closely. Colonel McCormick told his foreign correspondents, he says, by honorable means, when you travel around the world, bring back a piece of where you have been. Do you know the Western Wall from Jerusalem is on there? Notre Dame Cathedral. As you walk north, take a few minutes. The Alamo is stuck up there. They brought back a lot of different pieces from everywhere. So now we're just going to go. This is our sister boat. We're going to go now to our turnaround. And this building on your left that says Fidelity, what style is it? What did you say, sir? No, that's right. Modern. It's the modern style. It's the glass box. It's less is more architecture from the 1960s. And then the University of Chicago, Mies van der Rohe's grandson, Dirk Lohan. He is a very well-known architect in this city. You can get your master's degree in this building where there's no windows. That are the classrooms, of course. And then the next building with the peacock on the top, that of course is NBC Tower. Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, but Adrian Smith, don't forget that name, Adrian Smith is the architect. And yes, it looks like a deco building, doesn't it? We call it Echo Deco because it echoes the deco of the 1930s. It's 1980s. And here are, now all this Riverwalk was started in the 1980s, both on the right and on your left. It's all dates from that period because this was kind of a no man's land up until around 20 years ago. Well, the hotel, the Sheraton Hotel coming up on your left, they started this move. They were a big inspiration for this move of all these buildings being placed here. We have kayakers on our right. So let me tell you about the Sheraton Hotel, built in the early 1990s by Sullivan Caldwell Benz. Look at the three top floors. I have heard those are the three floors that are taller than the rest. Those three top floors have bulletproof glass. Now that is a rumor I heard. I had no way at all of ever finding out if that is true. But I do know that when President Clinton was president, that is where he stayed, on the three top floors. So maybe it is true, maybe it isn't, but I'm just passing it on to you. This is a building that embraces the river in every sense of the word, with these huge windows at the base, and then every room has a nice large window. And also it has the largest ballroom in the city. If you're planning a wedding or a family reunion, it holds 4,300 people. So just in case you might need a big place, that is where you want to go. And from this point on, to the next bridge, there was nothing here. There, up until the early 1990s, this was the first. There's brick building on your left with the tower turned at an angle. There was nothing here except old warehouses, scruffy parking lots, just empty areas. But today it's a brand new neighborhood, and celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the reversal of the Chicago River, this fountain. It's called the Nicholas J. Bellis Fountain. And on the side is a pyramid. I think you all can see that. Every hour on the hour, water comes out of that pyramid shape. A cannon of water crosses the Chicago River. And of course, we time our boats not to go through it. But we did once, I can tell you. It must have been a boiling hot day when everybody was miserable. And they're coming back and see this lovely spray of water. And I'm sure this was many, many years ago. They must have said, go through it. Because I got to the dock like I did today to greet you and do a tour. And there's about 50 furious people there. They're just furious. They're so furious. So we never did that again, never. On your left is Riverview, Di Stefano Partners, magnificent building. Look at the detail there, the brickwork, the stonework, and the metalwork around the windows. Now, those are townhouses on the base. Imagine coming out of there on a day like today. Lovely, eh? Come out of there in February. Imagine this. You will immediately get blown back against the window, frozen there for an instant, and you will defrost in April. And that is the truth of our weather. And on your left, a great disappointment where the white fence is, was the great architect from Spain, Santiago Calatrava, was going to build a magnificent building there. So that never happened. That was too bad. And those of you from New York, who's from New York here? Okay, what did he just build? A train station, right? It's called what? The Oculus? It looks fabulous. He was going to build it. Okay, all right, on your left, everybody, is Lake Point Tower. This was built by students of Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, the man who gave you the modern style, that glass box. But in this case, those Schipperite and Heinrich were the architects. In this case, the building has curves. It has 3 curves. They wanted to build it with 4 curves in it, but they didn't because you could see into each other's unit. These were all apartments. I think today they're condominiums. But again, look at that flat top, steel and glass. All the windows are the same. It's called modern style. No decoration. And coming up is Navy Pier, 1960. You know, so many of these buildings I could talk to you about for, half an hour at a time. But very quickly, this pier has enjoyed many different titles. Municipal pier. And in the 1940s, it became the naval training station for the Second World War. Who trained here? George Washington. People watching, good food, not so good food, the usual. It really is a terrific place to go. Just a moment. Now look at the water on both sides, of course. You will see the water is not going into Lake Michigan. It is coming from Lake around the lake, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan, they all complained. They said, Chicago, you are emptying our lake. You cannot do that. So we had to build laws to control the amount of water that comes in from Lake Michigan. So look around. You have a perfect day. You're so brilliant to pick today. And we have a nice view here of the city, a very nice view. So let me talk to you about this. First of all, everything on your left is built over the air rights of the old Illinois Central Railway, and you see the Trump Tower, but onto your left side of the river, there's a tall white building with the windows in dark vertical strips. That is today the Aon Center. That used to be the second tallest building in the city. The Trump Tower is not as tall as that building, but the Trump Tower put a spire on their building, and the U.S. Tall Building Council said that counts toward the height. What do you think? So the building on your left is now the third tallest building in the city. And I want to tell you a story about that white building. That white building started its life as Standard Oil of Indiana in the 1970s. Edward Durrell Stone, Stone was the architect, and it's 80 stories high. It was sheathed in the most beautiful white marble. I'm talking Michelangelo marble, which had that mica in it. It sparkled, it was gorgeous. Amoco bought the building in 1990s, and they realized that that marble was cracking and buckling. It never fell off. And they took it upon themselves to replace every floor with North Carolina granite. That building had scaffolding on it for many, many years, 5 years. The cost $1 million a floor. $80 million it costs to replace that marble with granite. And the moral of the story, as the building disappears, is never take your marble for granite. Is that a terrible joke? Oh yes, these guys agree. It's really awful, isn't it? I can't resist it. So we're going back now to the dock, and as I said, Illinois Center Railroad, all their tracks were here. They're gone now, and we did major building here starting in the 1960s. The first buildings we see on the left as we approach is part of a new neighborhood within Illinois Center. It's called Lakeshore East. And these buildings were put up in the last 10, 15 years. They're all glassy and beautiful and shining, and they're luxury condominiums and apartments, and they have wonderful names, all to lure you to come and live there. The Lancashire, the Tides, the Regatta, and so forth and so on. So it's a great neighborhood to live if you work in the city, but behind that, just a little way behind that yellow crane, is a tall building with wavy balconies. And that one is called Aqua. Do you all see it? Can you all see it? It's 82 stories high. You won't be able to see it soon because something's going up in front. And by the way, this is the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Bridge, who came here in 1937 to decorate this bridge. He did not talk about the bridge. He talked about the threat of war at that time. Okay, quickly. So there is Aqua. That building is 82 stories, condominiums, and a hotel, Radisson Blu, on the base, 18 stories high. And those balconies are all different, the one above from the one below. Some of them are 12 feet deep, and that's 4 meters deep, of course. You can't tell from here. The most amazing thing about that, I shouldn't say amazing, but the really terrific thing about that is it was designed by a firm headed by a woman. It is the first time a woman has designed a building that who gets credit. Her name is Jeannie Yang, and today she's the which is right in front of that building. Now you are going to see these balconies again as we go back to the dock. Do look, because to me the amazing thing about those balconies is the railings. You cannot see the railings at all. They are reflected in the glass of the facade and they disappear unless you see them at the corner of the building. That's the only place you could see the railings. They had poured concrete as the building went up. They were poured in place. It's pretty beautiful. And now the building straight ahead of us on the left, the one that is triangular, it was with the horizontal glasswork. That was designed by who? We don't have to do the tour again. You've been wonderful. I always say, if nobody can answer that question, we have to do the tour all over again. So that's true. This is Harry Weiss. This is the Swiss Hotel, or Swiss Hotel. He liked triangles. He said you can place your building at an angle that's more pleasing for views. And of course, there are shorter hallways. And in a minute, you'll get a better look at the balconies of Aqua. Jeannie Gann, the architect, she is so well known now, and she's doing a lot of work around the city. And that building is going to be very, very tall. I think as tall as this one, 82 stories. Look at those balconies. You can't see the railings. That's really something. So, okay, straight ahead of us, in most of the buildings now, Illinois Center, a lot of them anyway, were designed in the 1960s when that modern style was king, when the glass box was king. And coming up is the Hyatt Hotel, the Grand Hyatt Hotel. That's the hotel with the most number of rooms in the whole city. You can tell that it wasn't built in the 1990s. It almost turns its back on the river. Look at the rooms, they have small windows, and it's set back from the river. It's two buildings, actually, and they are joined by a pedway. There are many pedways up here, so you don't often see many people on the street. They can go from building to building underground, which I'll tell you in January and February is a blessing. But today, if they designed that hotel, what would it be? Huge windows. There's a bar up there. Now, it doesn't look at the river. It would be up, facing the river, with a glass front. So times have changed. The building that looks like a rocket ship, again, is what we call postmodern. It's called Prudential 2. It was built in the 1980s. And I'm not going to test you on the architect because the name is Global, Schlossman, and Hackle. That's a long name. So we're coming into dock now. Look at this bouquet of buildings. This is considered by some one of the great urban views in the whole of the United States. You don't see this kind of view from the 20s to 209, the 70s, the 60s, and again back to the 20s and 30s. It's a bouquet, if you will, of buildings. Okay, so I'm going to say, please do not move until the captain comes out and says it's okay. And then I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I have 100 volunteers who do the boat tour, but I have also 400 volunteers who do multiple tours of the city of Chicago. We do not take tips, but what we love, if you're happy to go on TripAdvisor, because we really like that, and we would love for you to take more of our tours or join Chicago Architecture Foundation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will say, the weather makes the tour. I've been doing this tour for 20 years now, and I can tell you when it's 95 degrees, there isn't anybody except maybe the captain who isn't miserable, okay? So this was perfect. Thank you. You did great. Thank you.
Alright folks, before you get up, just look around, make sure you got all your belongings, cell phones, cameras, backpack, keys, small child. You guys have fun? Alright. On behalf of Chicago First Lady Cruises, my crew, myself, thank you so much for coming over. It was a pleasure having you guys on board. You are good to go. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks.